the idea of us being able to work in our businesses is just kind of a daily thing for you and I, Dennis. But for a lot of people, there's kind of the idea, and it's always in the back of our minds. There's an exit. We have to think about. We're not going to be here forever. We necessarily don't want to do this business forever, but at the same time, it's not something that we think about on a daily basis. But when it actually comes to you, I think the experience is probably not what we imagine.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many factors that play into what you're going to do when you start a business, but also when you end or exit the business. And what we envision and what really transpires can be two radically different things that happen.
When we actually get a chance, we hear about these buyouts in these companies. I remember that you know Mark Zuckerberg was offered $1 billion for Facebook, and he had his sights on something bigger. And I think it was probably a pretty smart decision for him to do that. To have another founder be able to kind of share their experience with us is kind of unique. So today we have Channing Moreland, who's the co-founder over at Eva, an event technology business. She's going to tell us about her experience and what that was like. It's not exactly what you think it's going to be. So I think this was a really good lesson to learn, and probably one of my favorite podcasts we've had so far. So take a listen.
Listen in.
WFH with two guys. Now here's Benny and Dennis.
I think, Dennis, when I started my business, there was a part of me that really had an idea of what the day when I sold my business would look like. There's people who have the ideas that, some private equity person will just buy us out and I'll be done and I'll make billions of dollars and whatnot. Obviously that's a dream, and certainly people think about that exit in mind, but when it actually happens, it's a lot different than what we've planned for.
It's radically different. One, it's a process to go through the evaluation and understanding what it's really worth. And then there's I'm gonna call it the analytical part, but then there's the emotional part that comes into it as well, and that you kind of take for granted. And when you get there, it's, you have to look at both sides of the equation.
Yeah, for sure. So having said that, we have a special guest that came on today here at Channing. Welcome back. Thank you for coming back on the podcast.
Thanks, Benny. Thanks, Dennis. So great
Yeah.
to be here. Excited to be back. Thank you.
So great to see you. Thanks for coming back. Yeah. Last time you were on here, we were really talking about your business, which I thought was fascinating, but we're kind of here under different circumstances now. And there's kind of a little bit of change that's been going on, and something we thought would be pretty exciting. So, but Shannon, would you mind kind of giving us a little recap on your business, what you do, a little bit about, about Channing as well?
For sure. So we are a event entertainment booking platform. And so what that means is we automate booking talent of all kinds for events. We specifically work in the corporate event sphere. Mainly, about 90% of our clients are conferences, conventions, executives, summits, kickoff sales meetings, and we're booking anything from the music to the keynote speakers to the interactive and experiential to the celebrities that are being curated and programmed for that event. And so our platform streamlines the process of discovery, communication, contract payment, insurance, compliance, tax vendor management, really all of those nitty-gritty details that come into play when you're needing to book this kind of talent. And we launched it in Nashville. We're almost 11 years in business now, and we book across the country. So wanted to give a quick little recap. I know we'll dive in deeper, but that's the gist.
That's fantastic. And for our audience out there, that's a really unique business. And we've all been to different conferences, and I never really think about like kind of the talent and all the planning that goes into it. So I know that it's such a huge part of this. I don't really understand, but because of what you do and it's unique, you had the opportunity to have someone interested, in your business. And I know that you had an offer to actually be acquired. So what was that like? What was that whole process like?
Yes, well, to your point, Benny, I really resonate with what you were saying about when someone starts a business, you're starting it, but you're also thinking of what the end looks like too upon that chapter. And we were in a really unique place when we started our business because we were in college 11 years ago. And we had really been painted this picture of that's when like startups and the unicorns, it was like really, they were in their prime. And so we were kind of put down this path. And, no, it was I'm grateful for it, but we were really put down a path of, all right, you're going to raise this money. You're going to try and be as big as possible. You're going to try and grow as fast as possible. And then you're going to exit at some point. And
Right.
that's just not what it's actually like, or
Right.
especially what it's been like the past couple of years. But still, I mean, even from then and today, we are building for this company to be acquirable.
Right.
And why we do that is it's not even so that we are saying we have to be acquired, but it's so that we're building a business that has the foundation and we're thinking about scale in that way. And we're thinking about when we make decisions architectural within the platform, we're thinking, well, how is this going to plug into something bigger? Which I think is just a good mindset for a business to have. But of course, ego, all the things like we want to be acquired. Like that feels like it's validating. It feels like we built a business worthy of that, all of those things. So I say all that to say, and really I aligned with Dennis because I know you've been through something similar. It's like you plan for that day to happen and then it comes and then everything changes. You're like, wait, everything I was thinking I wanted, everything I was planning for, it's still accurate, but it's not this. And so it really shifted things for me last year. This was the second time it happened, but this was a really intensive process. Um, and it was a potential strategic, but ultimately more of a private equity feel. We'll dig into the nitty gritty of it, but it just became clear that to me, it was like I woke up and I was like, wait, I actually want to keep building. I want to keep growing. I want to take this further. And it was a really interesting, almost litmus test or a checkpoint for me that I just couldn't have felt until given that opportunity.
No, and I mean, where you kind of come from. I mean, it's your baby. And I mean, it's like, and sometimes coming alongside some other groups, it works well. Sometimes it's like, okay, they're going to just not destroy it, but they're going to change it radically from how you had it envisioned. And that's where that emotion begins to play in. And so, you know, it's challenging to know that you could, get a lot of money, but then you're out here or you may become part of that entity. And now all of a sudden you're in corporate America again. And, I always tell people once you leave corporate America and you become an entrepreneurial environment, it's hard to go back
Mm,
because there's that freedom, there's the decision making, there's, quick responses. Where corporate, there's bureaucracy, there's meetings, there's all this stuff that just doesn't really add any value. And that's the beauty of owning your own business. And so when you get to that quote finish line, sometimes it's scary.
for sure. It's funny too because we've never even been in corporate America, but
Right.
we work with them every day. Like our clients are corporations and enterprise. And so that at least has, I think, helped me understand the bureaucracy, procurement, all the pieces of it. But still, it's a big piece of I want to do whatever I can to not be personally working in corporate America.
Right.
And it was really eye opening for me. I think even I've just always been heads down as a founder. I've always been
Right.
like, okay, go the course, keep building. And then there'll be that day where you get to that exit. And I thought I was there. And I then looked around me and I saw all the positives. I think sometimes in founders, you can just really see the errors you're making, the failures, the room for growth, all those things. But then all of a sudden I was like, wait a second, this is actually really good. And if I can keep doing this and build this to the next phase, great. That's the next milestone. Let me focus on that. So
When you also have to take into consideration, your team members. My case, it's the clients that I work with. I mean, I know how I treat them. And if I had sold it, they were going to be treated differently. And I love what
totally.
I do. And so it's like, why give it up? And so when we got to the finish line a year ago, we chose not to sell. We ended up coming up with a hybrid model that was kind of unique in that two of the people that were going to buy it are still coming alongside, and someday they'll probably buy
Mhm.
but I'm still staying involved and doing all my stuff. They're kind of parallel building their own. One's more on the operation side, one's more on the sales side, and gives them a chance to kind of get up to speed. And to me, it's a win-win for everybody because that's if you're buying a company, it's like starting a company. It sounds great, but you get in there and it's like, oh God, I didn't know all this stuff, or I didn't know that you had to do all this stuff. I thought it was going to be this and it's that. So it gives them a chance to kind of get in there and see what's going on. And for the client, nothing changes. It's now you've got three people helping instead of one person doing all this stuff.
Channing, let me ask, and Dennis, chime in on this too as well. I'm going to guess you were approached about selling your business. You didn't go out and seek that, right?
Correct. Yes.
Okay. When you were approached and you said you'd been approached more than once about selling your business, were you okay? Yeah, the time is now. Let's take a look at this. And when you got that offer sheet, and when the offer was presented to you, how did it feel? Was it excitement? Was it, oh wow, this is beyond what I thought? It's less than I thought. What kind of was your thinking when that all happened?
Yeah, absolutely. For us, it was a really unexpected. We were approached by a strategic that we had known for quite some time. And then what I want to share, at least with my experience, I don't know if this is how it is for everyone else, but there is a very long due diligence process, just like when you're raising
Mm.
capital. It's not like you're just given this offer. Like Dennis said, they have to determine what is the worth and value to them. They have to audit the business. They have to look in every single area because they have to make sure that what you're claiming is true. And also, I think about this when I'm looking at businesses to acquire myself, is that once I acquire this, is the book of business is it gonna transfer over? Like,
Yeah.
is that book of business just succeeding over here because of the person running it? And if they're no longer there, is it still going to succeed? And so the same thing for them, they have to see, is this business replicable without Channing or without Mackenzie, the co-founders?
Uh-huh.
And so it was a long process, honestly, shorter than some, but I mean, they reached out first in April and we said no in October. So just to give people a gauge on that. And it was not until like the very last step, officially giving the offer. And looking back, I actually am now doing things differently because of that. It took so much of my time as a founder of the business to navigate this due diligence. And it wasn't something I was prepared to do last year. So doing that on top of everything else. But the reason ultimately I was interested in continuing the conversations and really going deep in it is I knew that, my co-founder and I have an incredible relationship. We have built this since college together. We've really grown up in the business together. And so we're very open in communication with one another. And I knew that she was ready to take a step back. She thrives in starting and untangling those initial problems and finding product market fit. She's brilliant on the product side. And so she really led us in that early phase. And I'm the opposite. I love to scale. So it was also this realization for me where I was like, wow, I finally actually feel like I'm thriving in the business where I can go scale this now. And so I knew that she was ready to given the opportunity to maybe take that step back. And so that's why I was like, well, maybe we do the exit then, because that gives her the opportunity. I can double down, but then we make sure the team continues on. So that's where I was coming from. But then when we actually got to that final point, I was like, no way is this offer going to work for me. And then it was this amazing resolve for me where I was like, I'm actually okay doing this. But like I can do this. And so I presented an option where my co-founder is now on the board. She's able to take a step back, really focus on, next steps for her and her growth in her career. And I'm doubling down with the team. And honestly, I've never felt more clear and aligned on where we're going. And so it's been a really wild, but beautiful experience, honestly. And I think it was the test I needed because like you were saying, Benny, when you're starting your business, you just can't know what you actually want that to look like.
Yeah.
And now it's like, who knows? I'm less focused on it now. I'm less needing that. Of course, I want it for my stakeholders, but it was like gripping me for years. Like, oh, you have to get an offer, you have to exit. And now, I don't know, it's just kind of been released, and I actually just want to focus on growing the business.
No, and that's perfect. And in one of your comments you made was, the time it took to kind of go through that evaluation piece. It is time consuming, but it's a very worthwhile effort. And I encourage people that own companies, if you haven't done it, it's worthwhile to do, because what you think the value of the company is and what a third party thinks can be radically different.
Oh, yeah.
And they can also then give you a lot of pointers, because you hit it on the head. A lot of times it's the person that's really the business. It's not the business. So if that's how it is, you're not going to get the value. You've got to have other people. You've got to have processes. You've got to have tools that make it
So,
valuable, so that when you're gone, it still keeps going. And I
yeah.
encourage people that if you think you're going to sell in the next 2 or 3 years, you need to do that now. Don't wait for a year out, because you're going to think it's worth 10 million and they're going to tell you it's worth 2 million, and you're going to be really unhappy.
Dennis, that needs to be the like highlighted, bolded part of this podcast for people, because that's exactly right. And also, what it gave me so much, like people ask me, like, oh, would you do it differently? No, because getting to go through that intensive of an experience with them, it also helped me get really clear on the next phase of growth. We
Right.
were talking about this next phase of scale with them. I was mapping it all out for them in due diligence. And I'm like, I just want to do this. But then also, the biggest thing that's so important, like you're saying, for a business owner, and that's why I was saying at the beginning of the podcast, we always wanted to build a business that could be acquired, just because of how to build for that kind of scale. Ultimately, you need to build a business that doesn't need you to run it. And so when we're thinking about like all the facets of scaling a business, how does that work? Integrations, making that easier upon getting acquired. So there's just pieces of that. So I couldn't agree more. I think getting a third party audit of your business will just be super eye opening.
And you can use, if you do keep the business, you can use it as your springboard to kind of go to the next level, or how you're going to
Totally.
operate it. Or if you need capital, a lot of the things that you're going to be putting together and going through the process are what they're going to be asking for the capital side of your business. So it's not a wasted time and effort. It's going to be an eye opener, especially to those that are really in their business, because it's going to come back that you've got to get out of the business and let the other team members run the business. Otherwise, you don't have a business. There's one of my clients, I won't say who, but it's a hobby for him. It's not a business. She's very successful and she likes it. But if she tried to sell it, it's not going to be worth a whole lot, because it's what she does and it's her world. And, that's fine. But it's
Mhm.
like, if you're trying to sell, you've got to be prepared for that.
Definitely. And I think another point that is just important for people to know is just ultimately, what type of revenue do you have? Is it transactional? Is it reoccurring? Because is it a service based business? Is it a technology based business? Just the actual acquisition is going to look a lot differently. I think people hear about all the acquisitions that happen in like straight tech businesses, also with AI, like SaaS is becoming so different, but it's with these multiples that looks a lot different than a service-based business.
Right.
And so that's another thing that I think is important for business owners to just be aware of, and make sure that what you're expecting is aligned with what type of revenue you're transacting.
And a lot of businesses I talk to, they'll say, oh, my accountant says it's worth this. An accountant is not the right person to help you figure out the value of your company. There are groups out there that work really, really hard and have processes to go through. The accountant is a piece of it,
For
but
sure.
it's not the whole it's not the whole equation of what's going to happen, and what's going to come back. And Channing, in your case, you had people that were wanting to acquire you. It's even more difficult when you're wanting to sell it and you don't
Mhm.
even know who's out there as the buyer.
For sure. And I made a change this year. I just want to share it if it's helpful. I don't know if this is the right way to go about things, but I took a hard look at last year and where my time went as a founder, with the determination that I wanted to double down, keep my head down, and keep growing. But I looked at that and I said, okay, this is the second offer we've received. As we scale, as we put ourselves more on the map across the country, I think these are only going to happen more. There's a lot of people and companies that like to kick the tires on a business. And I cannot spend my time doing that if I need to be focused. Just looking at how much time truly went to that last year. And I had my co founder, now I don't. So there was all of these decisions that I was like, I need to change how I go about this in 2026. And so I actually went through this long process of finding an M&A advisor, talked to a bunch of different people. And ultimately, I became very clear on what I needed. So I essentially need someone to come alongside me and be that buffer between anyone that wants to inquire on Eva versus I cannot have those initial conversations. And so I brought this M&A advisor essentially to be that, where he is keeping an eye on the industry. He has our target list. We're setting up some conversations, just more from a partnership angle right now, ultimately potential exits. But he will be the funnel to that, to like really determine if there's legs here. On the inverse, I'm interested in acquiring companies. And so I need someone to do that initial due diligence. With what I need to do this year, I can't. So that was a huge, I think, lift for me, being able to look at last year and how I can't do that again and make a change on it. So that's been something that I hope will be helpful this year.
That's a great suggestion for a business owner. I mean,
Yeah.
because you always think about you have legal, you have accounting.
Why
Nobody
would
think
you have
why would
M&A?
you not have an MA advisor on on your kind of advisory board helping you look at stuff and then having them be the front gate? What a great idea!
Yeah.
It just came out of necessity, honestly. I was like, I can't do that again because it really took me months of work. And for what? For me to say no, which was again, wouldn't change it. I'm so grateful, but can't do that again this year.
So I would imagine too, and you kind of glanced over it there. You don't have a co-founder anymore, and this is truly your baby now. I would also imagine that for your team members and all the folks that work with you, this is probably, maybe I'll say it's a relief. Maybe they feel, hey, wow, maybe energized, maybe feel like, oh, hey, Channing's going to take us in this direction here. Give us some feedback on that.
Yes, the team has been my number one focus and priority, especially in this first quarter amidst this transition. I know it's a lot for them to have to navigate, like, okay, we're doubling down, we're growing. It's, just me navigating this with you, but I have brought in support to fill in the gaps with my co-founder stepping into board role. And I think we've done the best we can because every single team member, we have an employee equity option plan. I really see them as stakeholders in this business. And so I share a lot with them that maybe I wouldn't if it was just straight employee. So we were really upfront with them and did a lot of communication on all of this, back in 2025. And so my goal, and I've been really communicative with them on, is to ensure that they are solid, they feel clear, they feel supported, on where we're going. But I do, Benny, to your point, I do sense and feel this energy and this excitement. And just on the natural momentum that's happening in the business, it's a really fun time for us. There's some really big strategic problem solving that they're getting to own and oversee, but we're getting to do it together. So my hope is that, really just in this whole quarter that they're supported and then we can really take off again together.
It's got to be in, uh, if as you're kind of going through this, I can feel your energy. I can feel this. It's almost like you're reborn in the
Yeah.
fact that, hey, I've gone through this exercise. Now I know where I stand. It's not, and potentially what offers would look like. This is not where I want it to be, and I want to get to and grow. And so, talk a little bit about what you've changed in terms of your company. You had quite a patch that you were covering in terms of the area, but now with this new kind of vision that you have, you're really looking to take in a different direction.
That's really cool that you commented on that because I don't even think I've verbalized it like that, but that is how I feel. And I think for me too, just going into the mindset, of a founder, it's so hard. It's so isolating, but it's so worth it. So it's a crazy place that we're all in, that I know people will resonate with. But I want to say this first because I was real. I mean, I knew I was struggling with it, but I don't think I knew how deeply for years. I mean, I kind of we accidentally started this business and we took on this investment. I was a songwriting major. Mackenzie was a music business major. And then we just started. And so we just didn't even really know what we were building. And it was the true cliche adage of building the plane while flying it. So I always had and I take it so seriously when I take someone's money and my name's on the dotted line with them. And I just don't think I was prepared. I definitely was not prepared for that. And so there was such this intense fear of failure and just so rigid and almost scared to act. And I mean, navigating the pandemic and the past, it just as a live events business, it was just insane. And so I think there was this survival mode holding over me. And I feel like somehow all of this last year, I was just able to finally break that and just now just really be focused on the business and have fun with it. It's been a totally different experience. And so I'm very calm, but I feel very clear. It's the busiest and craziest time ever, but it oddly doesn't feel that way. So I think there's a lot to that. I do feel that energy for sure.
Yeah, it's funny, and this is a little embarrassing. Dennis, I don't think I didn't realize this when we were talking about this before the meeting. I had said that, hey, I haven't gone through this experience, and I forgot I actually have gone through this experience. I had a frozen yogurt business. My wife and I had a business, and we only ran it for around a year or so. Actually, we had it for 2 years because it's a franchise business. We had to do all this, but I actually did sell my business. And I was like, what am I saying? I've gone through this, but it's such a small level, right? It was such a, it was 6 figures. It wasn't the type of thing that, a unicorn sale.
That's big. It's let's normalize. That's big. That's awesome.
Well, but I remember though thinking, because I had been approached a couple of times, and it's like, no, I'm not interested in it, in terms of just for that little bit that we kind of grew it. And I'm feeling this, and you're energizing me to be able to, with my primary business in what I do. And Dennis and I have had this conversation, and I take, a lot of feeling from what he was saying in terms of wanting to take my business. Talk to me in a couple of years, but also to your point, I think I better maybe in 2 or 3 years, think about taking a look at what this looks like. So you're helping me think through this a little bit.
Yeah, because if you look at it now and you go through the process, you may come up with a different angle of how you're going to, like me, instead of selling, I'm probably going to still hold on to this for another 10 years. It's just, I'm going to each year step further and further away and give the other people more ownership or more profits to them, but still own the business and not be out of the business. And then they're bringing in new ideas with AI and all this other stuff that I wouldn't be as engaged in. They'll be the next Channing that takes it to the whole next level and allows them to come alongside versus just selling it and walking away and wondering what's going to happen to it. Because it's your baby. It's a child. And you love that business and care about it, just like, even though it's not a living person, you care about it almost like it's a person, and you want it to be healthy and successful, and you want to have fun with it.
Absolutely. And I think you really struck a point that we don't think about, is that just like you can build the perfect business for you, just like you can start exactly like you want to start, you can end how you want to end. You can decide exactly how you want to scale, where you want that to look like. And I think just realizing we actually have that power. Anxiety is the stress of the unknown. And I think when we can just be resolute and actually see all the cards on the table, it makes it much more clear for us.
And at one point I would put for the audience, those people that are in transition, because there's changes happening with AI and things like that.
For sure.
If you're on the other side, this is a way to look at getting into owning your own business as well, is to find a Channing, find a Dennis, find a Benny that owns a business and come alongside. You may not be an employee directly, but you're doing 1/10 of the work to find out, do you like that industry? Do you like it? And then you begin to kind of take more and more responsibility as Dennis fades away without laying that capital out. There's also, I encourage people to think differently. It's not just a transaction of I buy it and I walk away, or I buy it and I own it. There's different ways to approach this and do things differently. Yeah. It's not I call it the old school where you had to do it one way and that's it. There's lots of different ways to start. There's lots of ways to end it.
It's such a great point. This is how we see it. The best exits and acquisitions start with partnership. And so that's how we want to go about it. And that's how it can happen from someone coming in as the partner. I mean, a business owner needs to feel confident. They need to have time with that person. They need to see how it's actually they navigate. So I think that's great advice.
Channing, this is such a not only an interesting topic, but I really love the way that you've really told us your story because I can really feel this. This has been a fascinating talk, and I wish we could talk more. But I know that there are some folks out there that not only want to know a little bit about the process, but maybe they want to talk to you about your business and help you get to that next level. What's the best way for people to get in touch with you?
Absolutely. No, I would love that. I am active on LinkedIn, so you can find me there, Channing Moreland. Also, you can email me, channing@bookwitheva.com. And if you're just interested in checking out our platform for first, it's just bookwitheva.com.
Channing Moreland, thank you for stopping by today. Our
Thank you, Benny. Thank you, Dennis.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
it was
And
great.
we're gonna have you back. Like we want to be able to talk to you, and we want to hear what's going on and what you've kind of spun this into. So you'll be on here, and we're anxious to learn more about what's going on. Okay.
Love
Thanks
it.
for stopping
Thank you
by.
all so much. Appreciate it.
All
Thank
righty.
you.
You've been listening to WFH with two guys. We'll see you next time.